Welcome to Three Devs and a Maybe, the podcast series for beginner web developers and general web enthusiasts. Now, introducing your show hosts, Michael Budd, Fraser Hart, Lewis Keynes, and Ed Mann.
Hello everyone, welcome to a very special episode of Three Devs and a Maybe. For the first time ever, we are all recording in the same room.
Woo!
Yeah.
You are real people!
Indeed. So, I am Michael Budd, and I am joined with Ed Mann.
Hello.
And Fraser Hart.
Hello.
Sadly, no Lou here today, but hopefully, we're hoping, he's got crazy life things going on at the moment, but hopefully he'll get back to the podcast when he can.
Celine Dion's pretty...
Celine Dion, he's off in Las Vegas, actually seeing Celine Dion live.
Yeah.
And didn't he win their competition as well? There was like one of these things like you can go and put powder on Celine Dion's face before the gig.
That's right.
Yeah,
I know he's very excited about that.
Because he posted that photo on Twitter, didn't he? You know those when you see the mirrors and stuff and they've got all the lights around.
That's
right.
it.
Yeah. Like Celine Dion wasn't in there, but there was like him. He was putting powder on his own face.
That a bit strange, but I think he thought that may help the competition, like kind of win the competition. It's weird he deleted it now, so the audience weren't going to see it, but we saw it, and we're now telling the audience. So it's always good.
So Lou, enjoy
it, exactly. Oh man,
doesn't stay in Vegas.
It doesn't, because of the internet. The internet ruined all, didn't it? You know,
copies.
Exactly. The newspapers used to take years for it to come there. Oh man,
and we sent it to your mum. And the photo.
This is crazy. Yeah, this is like our first ever.
We're
in person.
It's quite nice, because it's nice to see that you people are real people.
Yeah. We it's not like we worked together ever. You know, I mean that never happened. But that's insane.
We all live quite far away now, so it's
it's weird. Yeah, for the audience, like so Mickey and Fraser have both done the trek to where I live, where I'm going to be soon leaving. This is my house that I spent the year in. Yeah. And they came over, and it's been really nice of them to come over. You know, you trek from London, trek from Faversham. Yeah. Decided to come here.
Come and sit in a room full of boxes.
It's pretty much just a room full of boxes. It does feel like a bit of a wasteland now, doesn't it? It's kind of derelict kind of place, but no, it's great, and awesome.
The most amazing tech, like everywhere you can see, especially up in your room as well, which is.
Whoa!
Personal, I was going to say, what were you doing? I didn't get an invite up there.
Well, there was a camera on the bed, which was like the scariest thing when I walked in. But
that sounds a bit wrong. It's just a camera,
yeah,
SLR thing, and then you like the Drobo
pointing at the bed.
And you like the Drobo, didn't you? I think the Drobo, that was quite cool.
Amazing.
Oh man,
what's a Drobo?
It's that. So essentially, you know, you got the array you were talking about, where you've got like the 2-bay array. So it's like that, and they use kind of a different storage. So I don't know how do you work your RAID? Is it like just both drives are combined together to equal the size?
I've got RAID 2, so it's mirrored.
Mirrored. There we go. You see, So this is like this thing called BeyondRAID, which is like their own patented version of RAID. I know. Well, the only nice.
It's kind of that's what you've got, but better. Thanks, Ed.
Drobo thinks it's better.
Okay.
So what they do, so the nice thing about it, because I know with yours, do you have to have the same disk size and same disk type? I don't know how specific that is. Because I know because the nice thing about Drobo is you can put any drive in, so you can have like say I have a terabyte drive, I have 2. So you'd find all the hard drives you used to have. I remember like when I first got the Drobo, I literally got all my old computers because it was like 2. That would have a 750 gig hard drive in, that would have like a 500. Just put them in, and this is like a 4 bay. Just rated storage pretty much, but it's quite nice because you do the gimmick of pulling out one of the hard drives and it still works. So you can actually just pull out the hard drive that was good choice in words. Pull out the hard drive and it actually still is works. It's able to it's got redundant storage and like every disk doesn't need to be there.
So is it a 4-bay?
4-bay, But no, I mean it's quite fun. But it's really weird being like in person, and we are hardcore on a Friday night with our coffees.
No, we've been to Wetherspoons as well. That's pretty hardcore. Mm-hmm. We had ice cream Sundays at Wetherspoons.
That's it.
And now we're in,
And then we really are. We know how to live now. We know how to live.
Yeah.
And then we'll be obviously talking a lot, but for the audience, like Mickey, how's your week been? Like, I suppose actually, how has it been?
It's been like 6 weeks.
Yeah, how has like your 6 weeks been since we last did a recording?
You know what? Sort of. Really frustratingly, I guess I was kind of been working on the same project that I was working on like last time we spoke, which was kind of like that upload thing, but it's now working really well. But it was just a massive mission. And
so, what kind of like do you get? Like, I mean, have you been able to have like some time to kind of reflect and think what you would do differently, kind of how you would want to, kind of.
That's the thing. Is like what I was saying to you before, but like obviously people weren't listening, but
They were
Sorry,
subconsciously listening, you know.
But yeah, I've learnt slower than the speed I was developing at. So like everything I learnt was like I learnt too late, and so now I'd love to go back to the drawing board and do it all again. But I've done e-commerce sites before, obviously, and but the idea for this was that we had this one uploader where you could configure a spreadsheet and say this ties to this, etc., etc. And
was it a fast changing spec as well? Like
definitely.
It wasn't.
It was almost like before we finished one site, the next one was in. Yeah. It was. I have learnt a lot on that project actually, but I'm happy to say that it's working really well now. And like I say, we had an e-commerce site this week that I've managed to build within a week.
See, that's amazing turnaround, like for a site. I mean, to be able to do that, and you know, because actually the analogy, well, not analogy, but the example I remember talking to you about this morning, earlier today, was I was listening to a podcast, and I'll talk about it more during the podcast kind of thing, like this internet history podcast, and it's really interesting to think about Netscape and kind of, you know, like how Microsoft was such a dick during the 90s. I can't believe some of the stuff they used to do. Like in the 90s, it's bullying tactics. Yeah. They were so mean. But yeah, no. So one of the people there, he was Louis Montulli, I think his name was, and he came from Lynx. You know the Lynx web browser? Yeah. It's like the text based. He made that, and he was kind of very much at the beginning of the web in the early 90s. Yeah. And so what happened was he came in to do Netscape, and they were able to ship Netscape pretty much in 6 months. So a brand new, amazing browser. But they'd had, the thing was, and the thing he said, like, a lot of them had previous experience from like Mosaic, which was the first ever popular web browser. But he said he wouldn't recommend developers doing that now, or even then. Like, the reason why they were able to do it so quick was they'd already built it before, and they already knew the space. Yeah. And I think it's interesting, you know, when you say like a blog, you know, like a typical blog name, you're like, yeah, you can easily get one of those gone, can't you? You know, you say like a brochure website, you know, within a weekend you could probably get that done, and that's out the door. But doing these things that you don't know about, and like you say, the requirements change, and you haven't got that plan, and it's definitely on a different level. But it's kind of like interesting to think that it is the same. It's if it's the same old stuff, you can easily replicate it, and the speed is quite good. But stuff that you're in the unknown, and we typically
it's scary as well, isn't
exactly.
it? Like even when someone asks you for an estimate, like how long do you think this is going to take, and
how can you?
You've got to come up with a number,
because you just do it on previous experience, don't you? You have no gauge, so really, it is very much you are picking a number out of thin air. Yeah. I mean, I remember that a lot. Where we used to work, where it was these estimates, because obviously, and I understand like the business behind it is, you need, obviously your hours cost the company money, so you need to work out how many hours it's going to take you to do this. Yeah. But if you don't know the problem fully, or you haven't done it before. Now, if I'm someone who's done that before, and I can be like, I do it in an hour. Yeah. Like you say, now you've gone down to 8 minutes, per mile now on your jog. No, I can do that in 8 minutes. Yeah. Brilliant. But it's something like this where it's constantly changing. The factors are always different, and maybe I'm actually giving it discredit where I'm saying, a brochure website you can do, in a fixed time, because they're all different a little bit, I suppose. But it isn't. Yeah, it's the intimidating, like kind of. I don't really know, but that's what I was kind of thinking. It's interesting when you say that, where you're thinking that you're not learning at the right pace, but actually. You have to go through. You can only learn these things by doing them, and
to get to where you are now, you've been through that 100 times, 1,000 times.
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly
it's the way that we have to work, isn't it?
Yeah. So, I mean,
So stop complaining.
Yeah, exactly. Stop beating yourself up.
It's true. I mean, there's some of my best code in there, and there is also some of my worst. And like you say, it's just because I've just had to go through some of those hard lessons, to be honest with you. And
I think that's another thing is bad code. Yeah. Because I'm like, I think we all hate it. We all like, don't look at that code, it's really bad. But everyone's like that. So why do we always feel like that? Why do we always feel like, like we're the only ones that make bad code? Like, you always think, Google, they're Google Chrome. Chrome must be beautiful or something. These code must be... But I'm sure they've got some hacks in there and things like that.
It's human beings. It's not
exactly. That's exactly it. It's, human beings who have the same things as us. They write good code, they write bad code. And I suppose the thing we kind of give ourselves discredit for is the fact that we don't see it like the black box that the user sees it as it works or it doesn't. It's like, it's great, it works, but it works, but there's a hack in there that you don't really, I don't want to say. It's like, they don't care.
Well, I guess it's like the whole impostor syndrome that we were supposed to talk about once upon a time. And and it's kind of like you always feel that this code isn't good enough for anything. Like whenever I write code and then I have to show it to my boss, I'm like, oh god, he's going to find out that I don't know what I'm doing. But it's like it does the job and it's code and it's exactly. And he's like, yeah, okay, perfect.
That's it, exactly.
Yeah, but I go into like, I'm sure there's better ways of doing this, but there's always going to be that element of I don't know. Maybe it's just because we're pathetic human beings.
Well, this is it. We will, it's that constant drive in us to want to kind of get more better and better and better, and I think that's good. But saying that the speed is, I think you're giving yourself discredit there.
Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe I'm being harsh on myself, but it's just one of those. But I think again, I was reading. I don't know if you guys follow David Walsh, but I love his tutorials. I think he's fantastic, and one of the guys that I wanted to get on the show, but. He works for Mozilla, and American guy. He basically he wrote an article on his blog, basically saying that he feels like an imposter, like he's not good enough to be at Mozilla and stuff. And I read his blogs, and his tutorials, I think they're amazing. Yeah. But I always feel like that. I feel like I'm not good enough really to be a developer. But maybe that's just something that most people get and stuff. And if he gets it, then it's.
I think that's amazing, isn't it? That these people who you admire. Also feel human. You're like, oh my god, they're not superheroes. And I think that's the great thing. And actually, funny thing, Mozilla. Do you know why it's called Mozilla?
No.
So it's called. It's mozzarella. Yeah, it's Mosaic Killer. So the people who got Mosaic. So I'll go for a little story just because I'm sad. So in the early 90s, and everyone should listen to the Internet History podcast and look up this stuff yourself. It's awesome. But in the early 90s, there's a guy called Andreessen. Mark Andreessen. Sorry, he and another fellow developer they were kind of research student type things at NCSA, which is like Iowa, I think it's in Iowa, like university, and they were tasked with building. Well, they wanted to build a web browser that was better because at the moment, when Tim Berners-Lee made the internet, it was very text-based and a bit crappy. Well, not crappy, but it worked for what they wanted it to do. Yeah. But they wanted to add pictures, etc., and it's really what we know the web to be today. So they built something called Mosaic, and it turned out that was they built that up, and it was very popular. Like it was the first popular browser. Now. They didn't make any money out of it, like in that, because it was just released for free. But then what happened was NCSA, long story short, really kind of wanted to then start paying for it, giving licenses out under this name Spyglass, and they kind of they got almost driven out a bit because the higher ups were like, oh, now the baby toy has become this big thing. So then they wanted to come to Netscape. And they hated the Mosaic people, obviously, and they co-named Netscape, I think, beforehand, Mozilla. And obviously when IE and Bill Gates decided to literally just dump on them and kill them off with the things that Microsoft used to do, right, were crazy. So if you had anything that was viably good, they would sometimes say, oh, we want to buy you out. Let's look at your source code. Look at your source code and go, we don't want to buy you anymore. And they just make the brand new thing that's exactly the same. They would do these. Wow. They would do things such as so there was this thing called it's like license per process or something like this, where even if, like, say, Compaq, the company, even if they weren't selling that computer with a Microsoft OS on it, they still have to pay Microsoft just for the right to, in any of their computers, use Windows. I know how that worked. The antitrust suits were crazy on it because it was just absolutely, and like things like Internet Explorer. So Netscape you had to buy, or they had this kind of the free, the shareware model where it kind of you don't have to buy it. It would just give you the nag screen like Sublime did. But that's how they made their money. Whereas IE was like, well, we're going to license Mosaic because they were still a company, and they decided, oh yeah, we're just going to give it free though, and it's with their Internet Windows. And it's just like these crazy things that they're able to get away with. But anyway,
even that kind of stuff still, well, not to that extent, but stuff like dirty tactics.
Oh yeah,
like, even with iOS 9, like an Apple blocking ads. That's a direct attack on Google.
That's it. I mean, that whole thing.
It's going to have a bad effect on the web as a whole because content creators can't make money.
They can't monopolize
ads. But it's not about making the web a better place. It's about taking money away from Google.
Well, and also, I know what you think about it. Think how many different ad blockers already were out there. I mean, iOS probably isn't the best one, but like things like Alfred. Do you remember Alfred, the brilliant, the Alfred, the search thing? I don't know if you used it. Used to be able to, you can now do this. So you can do command space and it comes up with Spotlight search.
Yeah.
that used to be like there's a thing called Alfred, which used to do the same thing. Obviously, OS, Mac, that's a great idea. We'll just add it in.
Yeah.
Well, Alfred they need to find other things. So it's funny where you get your bread and you're like, oh, we're good at this, but you need to spread out and kind of, because these big companies will take your idea or they just put enough money through.
Apple again with like trying to take on Spotify now.
Well, this is it. They're just like big company. They buy big. I mean, that was the thing with the Microsoft model, and it's very clever. Like what they did was they got to market not with the best product, just it was okay, and slowly version after version they'd make it bigger. So they weren't as good as the other one yet, but they were on the computer already, so people would use it. And also they'd do the whole idea of bundling. So, you want the license to Windows, but you can get a discount on this Microsoft Office package. So you don't need Lotus Notes or anything. You don't need anything else. And people wouldn't buy it because they'd buy Microsoft. Yeah. Anyway, but so what happened was they codenamed it that, but also when AOL bought them, I think it was, they also released the Mozilla Open, made it open. I think they made it open before, and they called it Mozilla, and that's why it's called Mozilla Mosaic Killer. And I just thought that was crazy because it actually makes sense.
Yeah. Wow.
But anyway, sorry. So more about what's been going on. Like, how's the family?
And then there was a coffee break.
I know there was a coffee break.
Family's all good. Yeah, like I say, Toby just destroying the house sort of day by day, but he's just...
Is he doing it room per room or just
he's just working his way around, and he just, like I say, he loves plug sockets and anything that he shouldn't be touching, ovens, dishwashers.
Is Dennis staying out of the way?
Yeah, well, Toby loves Dennis, and he's always trying to grab him, and I should explain, Dennis is the cat for...
just a random
Dennis images there. Dennis is not so keen on Toby, but no, to be fair, other than that, really, life's pretty steady.
Yeah.
So,
awesome, man.
Who should we move on to?
Fraser, the man. You haven't been on for a lot longer.
I've not been on for, I'd say, a couple of months.
Yeah. So what is going on in life?
Mainly, the big thing at work at the moment is testing.
Is it? Do you need testing? I mean, who needs that? We've lived without it.
Like I was always of that kind of mindset, but now from the last couple of months, especially because ever since I joined this company back in December, they've always kind of said, we like to do testing, but it's always been like a very loose TDD approach. So like in an ideal scenario, we'd TDD everything, but in the real world scenario, it's like, we need this, can you do this really quick? So you just bang a bit of code out and whatever. So our test coverage is probably around like 50% or something like that, where it should be up in the 90s or whatever. So the boss has kind of like tasked me with kind of looking at our testing strategy a little bit better. So
that's interesting.
Yeah, so basically all our web apps are using Backbone as the framework and stuff. So I've looked at different options. We've been using Jasmine for our tests, which is what we're going to stick with. But we're now using Karma Runner as well.
So what's that?
Karma used to be Testacula, that you've maybe heard of.
Right, yeah.
It was kind of interesting when I was investigating all these things. I spent a couple of hours reading right around the time when Google changed it from Testacula to Karma, just the name change because of obviously it's Testacula.
Yeah, it does sound. Yeah, why would that? Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, so there was a really really interesting thread, but I had a very enjoyable couple of hours reading through this thread, and it was basically people arguing for the Testacula name and people arguing against the Testacula name, and it was some of these politically correct people and it's supposed to be a viable product, so I wouldn't be able to introduce this to my boss and say we want to use this, and it's whatever. So I personally think that Testacula is a cooler name.
It's funny, yeah.
But
I mean, it gives us a chuckle, doesn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. But Karma's awesome. So what Karma is, it's basically a test runner. So you write your tests in Jasmine. I think you can write them in whatever you want in Mocha or whatever you want to do them in, and then it's got a really nice interface. So you can basically sit there and you can have the Karma runner running in the background. So you can write a test. As soon as you click save, it will run through your whole test suite and immediately tell you. So you don't have to physically switch to a terminal.
Instant feedback.
Exactly.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and it's really, really cool. So it makes it really easy to TDD.
Have you looked at like growl notifications and stuff like that?
No, I've not tried that.
It's so cool because I know that Jeffrey Way and the PHP unit stuff. So if you watch it, I actually did it. I think I've set it up.
Yeah.
But it's you can actually, so it will come up with a growl notification saying that you failed tests. So it's quite nice.
Is growl still a thing?
Growl's still a thing. It actually still is. Yeah. Again, that's one of the things where we were talking about it just now. I think that OS has obviously Mac OS has just decided. I think they've got their own notification system now. No one needs to use growl.
Yeah, because I've not used growl for a couple of years. I used to use it, but stopped using it in the last couple of years. Excuse me. So the good thing about Karma is you can also pipe it out to real browsers. So your tests in real browsers and real
Yeah, because
environments
actually,
and stuff.
I think because that is it has drivers, doesn't it, for like Phantom JS and all these different.
Exactly, Phantom.js, Chrome, obviously Firefox, Safari, blah, 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 and whatever you want to run it on, which is really cool. And you can also, there's also WebDriver launchers as well. So because we write web apps, they're obviously going to be run on browsers within mobile phones, essentially. So on iOS and Android, we don't support Windows, or we don't officially support Windows. Obviously, we do our best to make it work there. So these web drivers, you can basically launch an instance of the iOS simulator, run the tests within Safari on the iOS simulator or on a real device, and the same with Android as well. So it's really kind of cool. So you can have like the long-term goal at the office is to basically have like a testing. What do you call them? Like a device suite or something. So like on a wall, we'll have a load of devices, and then you save it, or when you do a build, it'll run it through.
So it will happen through all hardware, like physical hardware.
Exactly. Yeah. So I've had it running on my Android phone. We've had it running on physical iOS devices, but we just, for the purpose of testing and for our releases and our builds and for our dev, we just do it on simulators. It's super simple, but it's really cool, man. Like you sit there and you do you save, you write a bit of code, you save. You write your new test and you save, and obviously it fails. So you go in and you write a bit of code, and it either fails or it passes, and it's just really nice, like you say, to get the instant feedback. It's really, really good.
It's gratifying when you see green, isn't it?
Oh, it really is.
It is an addictive thing to see green. You're like,
awesome,
and you feel like you've done work, and that's why Ken Beck actually wrote it. He wanted the feedback loop. He needs that kind of constant reassurance, and I think it's great. I think if you get it like that, you really like it because you're just like, well, I made it pass. That means I've done a job, because we always think with developing, we're like, well, what have we done? And you're like, no, well, I've made these pass, and that to you, and it does. It makes you feel good.
Oh, it's really, really cool. Yeah. So we've integrated that into, because we use Grunt as well for our build process. So
does that work quite well with Karma then to do?
Yeah,
like you just run. You just
there's a Karma plugin for Grunt, so you can just point at the same config file. We use separate config files because when we dev, we've got config files now that when you're developing, it'll only run the browsers on your local machine, but then we've got a separate config file that will pipe it out to our build servers. So we've got a separate Mac that is dedicated for building. So when we upload, or when we do a push, Jenkins will grab everything and then it'll run all the tests and what have you. So that pipes them out.
How fast is that? Is it because of all these?
The longest one we've got takes about 5 minutes, because
that's not terrible actually. That's not too.
Yeah.
I mean, is that so running a full Jenkins build?
That's correct. Yeah. So before the Karma was integrated, the builds would generally be about a minute each, which is it basically does the full build. So it runs all the tests, it concatenates and minifies.
Okay, and that relation is 5 times.
Everything. Yeah, and it takes a long time anyway. So now we've got Karma in there because it's firing up an Android emulator. That's going to take a minute just to fire the emulator up. Or a couple of minutes to fire the Android emulator up, and a minute to fire up the iOS emulator, and then it runs.
So you're hoping that like hardware devices may actually make it quicker, because you can probably just have them hooked up and they all
in theory,
do
I think
that.
The idea of the hardware devices is just because there's so much fragmentation with Android, so it'd be nice to have
Android.
rather than firing up like
Android
like Marshmallow on a Nexus emulator or Nexus 5 emulator. We'll have like a Moto and whatever, and just run everything through there. So it's been really good, and as part of the testing thing, we've been spending a lot of time looking at, or we've had a guy called Sleepy Fox, called Nigel. Can't remember his surname off the top of my head, but he called himself Sleepy Fox online. So if you
that's cool. Yeah, I'll put him in the show notes. Definitely,
he's really, really good. So we were all a little bit skeptical, like this guy was going to come in and basically teach us or kind of hammer home the
TDD philosophy. You have to test.
And it was really good. Like it wasn't just, he didn't just concentrate on TDD. He came in and he basically it was like, to get the most out of your employees, like have them work for 20 minutes, then go and send them off to go and do something completely different, and then have them work for 20 minutes, send them off to go and do something different. And he was like preaching pair programming, and there was a lot of different exercises it was like problem solving. It was as much doing katas as it was about TDD, but he made sure that you did everything TDD.
Which is a really hard thing to get in the mindset of. I find.
Really is. It's a discipline as much as anything else.
It really is. It's to not think of the solution first. Like, it's to like not break up the problem and be like, how do I test? What am I? Looking from the outside in, because typically we will build this thing up.
Yeah.
But you're actually trying to build it that way. It's like, what is the perfect interface that I would like to interface with, and then go down. And it's such a strange.
It really is.
I still, find it so hard. I mean,
but I find it really beneficial. Like in terms of actually understanding what you want certain components to do. like we were talking about Uncle Bob before because we've been watching the Uncle Bob videos at
and the
work
space. He loves space, doesn't he?
Yeah,
he loves his science.
When he talks about 10 minutes about the moon and stuff, and it was really cool. But there was one, I don't know if you've seen it, do you know where he TDD's the bowling?
Yes,
game.
the bowling character is really cool.
And like what he was saying, it's like, oh yeah, we'd get together and we'd like to have a design meeting and we'd say we need a class for this, a class for this, a class for this. And then we got in there and it was 14 lines of code because we did it TDD.
That's
and obviously he's written that code like 15,000 times before, but it's kind of nice to see it that way and to be able to
and it's like the MVP product, like minimal viable product type thing, where I think he always talks about, I don't know if you've heard it, he always talks about, what's it called? Oh, I've really forgot his name. But it's like this kind of product that he's made. I can't remember the name of it. Yeah. Fitness, that's it. And he talks about that all the time. Yeah. Bless him.
I don't even know what the
it's like a documentation Java thing. But he says the first thing they TDD'd it, and they're thinking, oh, we're going to have a MySQL database. We have to have a data store, definitely. And they start playing with it. And to test it, they just used a in-memory repository.
Yep.
And then they shipped with an in-memory repository because it turned out they didn't need it. Because you get you build up this product and you're like, actually we don't need these things, and you only build, and the test pass, it worked out fine and that's it. And you build up the minimal, you work out what you need for it. Yeah. And I think one thing I was with tests is that I'm like, well, okay, testing I used to test per function and all this horrible thing, per method and all this, and it's about guiding your design through the test. So the test helps aid you. It's great that you get test coverage afterwards and you get these to say, it's tested, but it actually helps you design a better product. And I've found so many times when I've been doing it that I would never have got to that solution if I had done it the way I in my head would break the problem up, thinking of it in a different way. And it really helps. But I do find it very, once I'm in this mindset and I'm going through the loop and I'm getting those reps, the red green refactor loops, I can get into it, but it does sometimes. It's really hard because you switch between.
I can do this all right, and you get carried away writing code. That's the time I did the piano hands.
I know. I was thinking that.
No one who's listening can see the piano hands. But you get carried away, and you can be like, oh yeah, I'll write this bit of code, but it's like no,
you've got to stop. Yeah, is there a test failure for this? Yeah, have you kind of thought about this? And it's a completely different thing, and it's really cool, man. So you've got comment and so your product So it's JavaScript stuff, and then it's Jenkins. You've got then Grunt and Karma for that, and then do you do and Backbone? And are you doing any other stuff other than Backbone? Is Backbone the main framework you use?
Backbone is the main framework we're using. Yeah, we're kind of thinking about exploring other options, but because all our main products that we're building and supporting are using Backbone, it's kind of hard to.
Yeah. And what Android devices do you support? Like, what do you test on? Because I've got the story of mine. I'm interested to see because Android to me was like a whole new world until the last couple of weeks. I was like, yeah, okay, it's Android. All right, we'll just deal with it. All right. But then you realise, wow, there's Gingerbread 3, then there's 4, which is ice cream sandwich, and then there's 4.2 or 4.1 and 4.2, which is jelly bean or something. Then you've got Kit Kat 4.4.4, and then you've got 5, which is now Lollipop. That's the one. Marshmallow. Yeah. And you're just and obviously it's the internet browsers are different.
Yeah.
And it makes you want to cry because they don't support any of the older browsers anymore, but people still use them because obviously they've got the cheapy Android devices that they've always had, and it's got internet on it. Oh, it's internet, and so I was just wondering how you work because yours really is just on these devices. I suppose
it pretty much is, and to be honest, we should be a lot more strict about what we do support. But I think the official rules are we don't support anything, or on paper we've sold the product to say we will support 4+. But I don't think we've speculated, or I don't think we've kind of indicated whether that's on a stock browser or if that's on Chrome, or I don't know. But basically, my testing is. I've got a Nexus, so I'll test it on my Nexus, and I've got a couple of simulators, and I'll run it through those. But.
Well, because with us, we were desperately trying to find phones with different versions on, and that's money in itself. The money people get on eBay, I'm sure, saying, "Oh, by the way, I've got an old iPad on version iOS 6 or something," because no one's updated it. Because you can't jailbreak these things, you can't downgrade them and stuff like that. And the same with these devices is you want a version on a specific thing, and yeah, it really is a pain. I've had cry. I just was in pain because there's no on the old Android internet browser until they started using the Chrome engine. You couldn't do remote debugging,
right?
which was just a cry situation. So you use something like Web Inspector remote thing that I found that allows you to
a JavaScript plugin or you put a line of JavaScript.
That's it.
You include a
it's
JavaScript
great. I mean, it is really
yeah.
great, but it's just one of those hacks that you have to do, and it's so annoying.
Yeah.
And yeah, it made me really annoyed. So yeah, we've had that interesting stuff. But again, it's like we think that the browsers on the desktop are hard to test. Mobile is a whole other ballgame now. Like this is even worse because at least with the browsers on the internet, we can on our desktop we can at least download them and use them easily. Now we've got having to fire up VMs. We're hoping the VM turns out it's not the same.
Run really
They're really slow. I mean, you get Genymotion and stuff which run a little bit quicker, but it's still the pain. And then you've got different versions of the and then you're like, I have to have different phones now. And I'm just thinking, really, we're in a bit of a scary situation where we've got so many different devices now.
Well, I heard a comment somewhere. It might have been one of you guys that said it, but it was like the stock Android browser is the IE6 of the modern world. Yeah.
Oh my days, that is so true. Yeah. And that's why they've discontinued it, haven't they? Now they used Chrome is now the go-to.
Now stock, and it should have been that.
It should have been, yeah. I think I don't know why it wasn't. Was it like like the Microsoft thing where they're not allowed to bundle it with it or something?
I don't know. I thought maybe it was just a time-saving. Let's chuck this cut-down browser because it's easier than re-engineering.
I think the worst thing is they call it just the internet, and it's like what people use. That's what people are going to use. They're just going to click on that, Joe blogs, and then they're going to be like, I'm on the internet, but it's like, no. And then they're going to have problems.
It's like your grandma, you say, which browser are you using? Oh, I'm using Google.
yeah, exactly. And now that actually makes sense. You're like, Google Chrome. No, I go to Google. Okay. IE then, you mean. That's pretty much what it used to mean, but...
absolutely.
But then that's the thing, actually, with IE. Like, have any of you tried out Windows 10's... tried it. What's it called? Edge. Microsoft Edge. Yeah, they've completely gone away now. They've discontinued IE.
Right.
It's toxic.
It's toxic, which, to be honest with you, I suppose, the name is.
IE11 was meant to be that it was like auto updates, and then that would be the browser that you had, and it would auto update.
They've completely rewritten.
So what's different? Have they just written it from scratch? Or?
I think they have. I think that's what I'm right. They don't use the Trident engine anymore, which was like the go-to name. What they used. Now, no, they're just using something completely different. So that's really interesting. But again, like it's so tough. I think browsers are a really weird space to be in. Because they're all kind of the same now, aren't they, really? You use your browser, what's really different other than bugs and, that thing. But, no, I mean, again, like, this is the thing, I mean, you must deal with it in the front-end stuff. Because, I mean, predominantly, is it mainly mobile stuff? Direct to mobile.
All we do, all just mobile stuff at the moment,
Oh, man.
But it's cool. But, we've also been working with... Have you spent any time looking at Cucumber, either of you?
No. Oh, the BDD kind of Gherkin language and stuff,
We've got a QA team, and obviously every time we do a bit of work, they have to test it and sign it. And every time we do, or whenever we do a new release for one of our products, they have to do like smoke testing, regression testing, like test everything to make sure that it's not.
So is that manual testing? Then they will go through and they'll
so they've got test scripts, and it's like click here, click here, click here, click here. So I've been I've been putting together some stuff in Cucumber, so they can write their tests in Gherkin. So for people that don't know, Gherkin is like a natural language way of like
given when you're able.
Given I am on this page, when I click this button, I should see this modal, or I should see this page, or this should happen. So the way that works is you write a load of regexy type statements in JavaScript, which then pick up these statements. So the idea is that we've got it basically testing actual within the browsers as well. So it's clicking, and it's not testing. It's not unit testing. It's testing the actual.
Sounds like Selenium
interface.
Is it similar?
It uses Selenium to get to work with the browsers and stuff. Yeah. So there's Appium, which going back to the Karma stuff, we use Appium, which allows you to fire up the devices and run it on the browser and devices, and then Selenium will let you pipe out to real web browsers on another machine or on the same machine or wherever you want to run it. So we're enabling our QA, or the idea is we're going to be able to enable our QA to write tests in natural language, so that they don't have to sit there and every time we do a release click on the login button and make sure that when they put the correct username and password in, you can still log in, and then when you place a bet on this, it adds it to your bet slip, and you can do all this kind of standard functionality. So the idea is, as we develop the thing, we can just give it to them, and they can write a couple more scripts in natural language, and we won't have to write any tests
So
ourselves.
you don't need a developer to do these tests. You can
Exactly, yeah.
Account manager.
I think that's a great thing because I mean the whole BDD kind of feel, because I always kind of think with TDD and BDD they're very similar. And really TDD is kind of the worst name for it because it is, behavior. The idea is you're testing behavior. You're not really testing implementation details. But I think like that whole idea of the Gherkin language and stuff used for these things, especially QA, is brilliant because that allows them to, it's again behavior. I mean, that is a behavior thing where it's like, okay, when I click this, it should do this.
Exactly. Yeah.
Is a behavior that this thing should act. It's not saying, oh, when an A tag is like this specific kind of like very low level specific unit tested kind of specific thing. It's more about the behavior of a general concept, which is what you want.
Exactly. And it also means that when the new functionality, or when some new functionality is spec'd out, they can sit with the client and they can say, given I'm on this page, when I click this button, this should happen. And then so the client sees exactly what's going to happen, you see exactly what's going to happen, and they can test it on exactly what they want to happen. So you've got all three bases covered. So if you give it to the client and say, oh, well, this is what we want to happen, it's like, well, look, here's a test that's running and it's 100% doing that. You can see that it does this, and this is what you've asked for. So it kind of...
I think that's good, very good verification. You kind of like working out, and again, it's like kind of transferring. I mean, this is the whole the DDD thing where it's talking the ubiquitous language and kind of being, talking to the people, the domain experts, people that are in the know of what you're trying to do, and you're trying to represent their world almost.
Yeah.
And again, like using these things like this where the barrier to entry is so much lower because it's just clear, precise phrases of text as opposed to a scary PHP, a unit test or something.
Yeah.
Though, I typically do sometimes, specifically with those kind of tests, which is like functional kind of tests, we'll write out in the given when then kind of scenario and be able to do that. But, giving them just sentences that you then kind of, from those devise the test out of that you're going to get right, I think is a good way. Yeah. And it allows all parties involved, from you, the developer, to the person doing QA, to the person who's kind of speaking with the client, to then the client themselves, to all understand exactly what the functionality should be. I can't think of it.
It looks really sweet as well when you run the code and you can see the browser pops up and stuff starts.
I'm not touching that. I'm not clicking that.
We do every second Friday. We'll do a showcase. So basically, what happens there is we get together on Friday, everyone cracks a beer open, and then everyone will take a turn to demo what they've been working on. So I demoed these cucumber tests, and it was kind of cool because everyone's like, "Wow, how's that look like?" Because obviously you're interacting with a web page, and stuff's happening, you're logging in, and you're betting on stuff, and it's just really kind of cool.
And you're like, "That's magic, right there."
And I found a really cool Node plugin as well, that lets you use emojis on the terminal in Node.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's really cool. So I've got ghosts appearing everywhere.
Oh, that's brilliant.
So that's been pretty much my work life. I'm working on an app in Ionic.
How's that going? You've been raving about the
It's
Ionic
really cool,
stuff,
man. Because I went away on holiday about a month ago now. A mate of mine runs a sailing school in Greece, and then he had an idea for an app, and I was like, yeah, that's pretty cool. He's got loads of data and stuff, because it's basically, I don't want to give too much away, it's nothing groundbreaking, but he's got a load of data on sailing, or a load of sailing specific data for the Ionian Islands. So he was like, I've got an idea for this app. Is it something? Can you develop apps? And I was like, yeah, I can develop apps. I can't,
but I'll learn.
Obviously, I'll put that game out, but that wasn't anything.
That was good, man. And you finally did a blog post. I was like, hey.
Yeah, it was just a self promo thing. But I was like, yeah, I can do that. And then I was like, I got in and shit.
Now I've actually got to do it.
Yeah, and then I kind of looked at various options. So I looked into React, and I looked into Polymer. And then the idea was I was going to write it in a JavaScript framework, package it up in Cordova, and it would be a glorified web view essentially. And then as I was doing a bit of research, came across Ionic, which has been around for a little while. And it's essentially, it uses Angular and Cordova, so it's one of these write once, deploy everywhere kind of thing. So it's just really kind of cool.
It's not like Titanium then, which uses the actual real components.
I don't, but I've never used Titanium, but I don't believe so.
It kind of translates. So what Titanium would do is it had it's almost like the React Native thing where it would have this is what I want a button, but a button on Android is different to a button on that, but it would use a common interface. But
it does. It's
like PhoneGap type thing, kind of web view.
Kind of, because it uses PhoneGap, which is Cordova essentially, isn't it? But it does kind of split up. So the view when you write like a tab bar, or when you produce a tab bar in Ionic, when you look at it in iOS, it'll look iOS. And when you look at it in Android, it'll look Androidy. So I guess it's similar to that. So I've spent, I don't know, maybe, I wouldn't even say 20 hours. I'd say 10 hours, and I've almost got an app.
Boom! Very
finished.
nice.
Like there's a few niggles and stuff that are occurring on various devices. Stuff it works perfectly in the browser. There's a few little. Well, there's quite a major performance thing that I need to address, because it's basically working out location data. So because I didn't want to run it off a database, I'm just using a JSON feed. But then it means that I have to run the distance calculation on the lat longs. So scan through an object, scan through a JSON object, which is a little bit slow. So I need to maybe think of a better way of doing that, or kind of hiding the fact that it's being done. But it's pretty much.
You could
done.
use something. I mean, like maybe there's like a data structure or something you could use, something different. Like I don't know, maybe like my mind's going blank now. But yeah, you could probably use like a different data structure. But you could also kind of use maybe web workers. I don't know, maybe that's something like that, which is it's essentially like...
Oh, so you split off into another process.
Yeah, kind of sitting off into another process, which you could then handle. And I think maybe because you're using Cordova and stuff like that, maybe you could do that.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Why am I... Yeah, min-max, like min heaps and stuff like that, min-max heaps and things like that with data structure-wise, where you could actually kind of... It would store it in an intelligent way where you... Because essentially, I suppose what you're trying to do is find out the closest place to where I am.
Exactly, yeah. So we've got a list of, I think it's about 40 places, and they've all got lat longs and stuff, and then it gets your current GPS position, and then it just spins through this object. But even talking about it now, like an easy way would be just to show the data, and then once the data's been shown, then spin around and work out all the distances and stuff, because at the moment it's running the distances and the bearing to it. It's running those through a calculation, and then when it's done that, it's displaying the thing. So I might as well just display it and then have a little spinner until it's worked out. Yeah, so I'm just brainstorming out there.
There you go, and that's it, isn't it?
So it's been really cool because it's written on Angular.
How do you like Angular?
I do like it. Actually.
You like it,
I've played with it a little bit before, so I knew vaguely what was going on with it. But it's really kind of nice. I really enjoyed the data binding, because working in Backbone, we don't have the two-way data binding
funness.
So it's just nice, so you're
coming from the Flux and React world. Like, I think data binding is the devil.
Yeah,
it's the complete. That is the
really?
one. Yeah, it changes the kind of flow. Like, you was thinking one way now,
right? Yeah,
but that's the thing. Like with Angular, because Angular's like. So is it version 2 now? What are they doing?
Ionic's running on 1 point whatever it is. I think it's 1.4 something. I think 2 is.
Because isn't that changing everything? Is that? Am I right?
They're building it from the ground up, so it's a brand new thing.
Which makes every developer happy that they've learned.
Which I think is partly why React has gained so much traction lately as well, because I guess people are looking at
other things.
What's the point? Like, I can either learn 1.4 and it's going to be obsolete when 2 comes out, or I can't use 2 yet because it's not finished, so use something else. But yeah, I think it's still 1.4. But yeah, it's kind of...
It's good. Is it like kind of the progression from Backbone kind of thing? It's got like all the good bits of Backbone.
Yeah, like, because what I've done is pretty simple. It's not like anything too in depth, but it's nice that you don't have to force re-renders, and you don't really have to listen to all the events, because if, say for instance, you've got going back to the lat long instance, say you've got like a lat long, and then you've got like a watcher on your location. So if you move somewhere, rather than say trigger an event or trigger something which is then going to re-render the thing, you can just say, well, this updates it and it'll automatically update in the view. And it's little stuff like that that just makes it really kind of easy. But it's been pretty cool. Yeah,
because is Backbone like actively developed now? Because I don't know. Like, it's one of those things where it kind of was at the beginning. It was like the thing. So. It's done.
I think
and
they've just kind of not swept it under the rug, but
kept it what it is. Yeah, because it is. Essentially, it's great for like that beginner kind of. It's that star, isn't it? It's the one where it's got it's not opinionated at all. You can do anything you want, which is great. But also, it's kind of like people can then just do whatever they want, and then they can
real crappy code out.
That's it. You can bastardize it a lot. I think that's the thing, though, isn't it? But then. No, they could feel like Ember. I don't know, because I remember you saying that you really wanted like the icon of it.
Yeah, I've still never played with Ember. Yeah, I just wanted to play with it because I wanted the hamster sticker. But yeah, now I kind of want. What what's the new Meteor? I want to get a Meteor.
Oh
sticker.
man, how many different? There's so many different frameworks. JavaScript framework. I think JavaScript world is like the craziest.
It's a bit annoying, really, because it is moving so fast. And it's
It
like
changes.
It's quite intimidating, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, just listen to you two. I feel like I do need to learn something like this, but it's just finding the time to do it. But maybe I think from speaking to you two, maybe React is the first thing to.
I think.
Have you ever play with?
So I think because I remember we did a podcast a couple of podcasts ago, which is like the Flux architecture. Now that's really like and I've got a really couple of good blog posts to put in the show notes about it. And it's just kind of once you get the Flux architecture and how simple it is, it's a very different. You don't think of two-way binding. You get out of that. You just think of this kind of action that goes through a dispatcher, which then gets dispatches things, which then the store picks up on, and then the store emits changes to the components, and you go into this one flow.
Yeah.
And then you use React for the views because it makes logical sense because you've got this just idea of state that's saying this it does all the hard stuff, and then that stuff like React Native, and that's something we're actually starting to look into. So
I'm interested in that actually.
Yeah. So last 2 weeks ago, I think it was. Maybe it was 2 weeks. It must have been 2 weeks ago now. We did release the app or the part of the website that now uses React and uses Flux, and it uses all these new things and Webpack, and it uses the ES6 stuff, but it's all transpiled down with Babel, so it's not really that bad. But yeah, that was a bit of a kind of scary moment because it's like, wow, because it's always fun using these technologies in our cocoon of this is called dev stuff. Like I can write a good blog post about this. Then you're like using it, now all these people are using it, and you're like, wow, this is kind of scary. The code's getting hit, it's like when a real problem, a real solution. And that's when obviously I've had this pain with Android stuff because we've realised that's the bane of our existence, and it's just small little things that some of the browsers do. But no, I mean, it's been really good, and now we're kind of moving on from that kind of thing where this is the way we want to go. We're now because we were making a Swift application beforehand, and actually we're kind of changing our focus now to actually make it a React Native app, because we can then do Android and iPhone. And that also means we can essentially just use, because of how I'll show you later on with the how the actual app looks on the mobile and stuff, and how reactive, how interactive it is, and how it plays. We can kind of just use it as use a web view.
Yeah.
And it's as good, and the code is so much easier because the thing is like doing stuff with like native is such a pain because you ship it. It's like CD-ROMs. I mean, that's another thing when I was looking at these things. Like Windows 95 was on the CD-ROM, so you ship that code to you've got now version 1. Okay, I want to update. Shit, we've got a big break. Please have version 1.2 or something. Yeah. No, you're still on version 1. At least with websites, I update, instantly updated. Everything's updated. We have control over what you get, essentially. But once you've got that CD or that delivery, and that's the trouble with native, is you've got it all that, and it's really scary. So, we've really think that, us having this ability is good. But no, I mean, it's going really well. And the React Native stuff is so good because it allows you, obviously, to interact using, what we feel, the concept of the view. So you can still use your Flux stuff, but then you have the concept of the view being... JavaScript kind of diffed and all that, what needs to be changed and everything, and we're looking forward to it. And there's all these other things that Facebook do, that they're doing this thing called Relay, GraphQL, and all this crazy stuff. And I mean, one of the cool things that I've got out of like this API project really is kind of like the building of an API and the maintenance of it, and kind of like looking at it, because like JSON, obviously we use JSON a lot and we use XML a lot, these kind of payload formats and stuff, but building an API that can be that can stand the test of time, and you use all these different formats like how, and then there's, I don't know if you've looked at like how, I don't know, like so these are like how's, like it's called Hypermedia application language, and it's kind of a format that you would use to build APIs that will stand the test of time, or kind of at least be able to live. And you look at this Hypermedia kind of flow structure, as opposed to, so the idea of these type of formats is you never construct, as a client, you never construct a URL, because typically what we'll do is, like you'll say user /1, user /2, how do you like, get the posts of a user? Well, it's just users /1 /posts.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you're generating those. Now, what the idea of these is I provide you the story. So I'm saying, okay, you want the user 1. Oh, by the way, here's the URL to get their posts as well. because I can change that now. So if ever I need to change these endpoints and stuff, I can give it to you. I'm always giving you the next thing.
Yeah.
Like, you never construct a URL, and it makes it's so much easier to the user or the client never constructing URLs, because that's when pain happens and you can't change things. So yeah, that's going a bit of a tangent, but yeah, how and all these things are really interesting. And yeah, I mean, I think the thing with the React stuff is everyone talks about React, and React's really kind of like just a subpart. It's just this cool view thing you can use, and you can use it with Backbone. I mean, actually, one of the things this person,
well, they've tried React on Meteor as well. The newest version of Meteor uses React.
There we go. I mean, it's this great thing, differing thing, and that's it. But the Flux architecture, I would definitely say have a look at that. That's really simply but cool. But yeah, it's just a different world. That's when I think I realised with the JavaScript stuff, it's like so different to like the kind of the back end stuff, and I do still prefer the back end stuff. I think I'm still. I love the front end. I mean, it's so much more. It's a different world, but the Android fragmentation scares me, because I'm just like, we thought it was hard with browsers on the desktop. So much harder than that.
And it's never like an easy, obvious thing, is it? It's always
it's always the worst. And it's the thing where you're like, okay, well, how do I write a unit test for this, or how do I test this? And it's like these bugs just happen. One of the ones was so on Android stock browser, obviously. You try and click on a text area, and typically what happens is the text box comes up, but you stay in focus of the input. Well, when I clicked on the inputs, it wouldn't move up to the thing, and that's because there's an unknown, undocumented WebKit function called scroll into if needed or something. Legitly on input, it's called scroll in if needed or something, and I have to call that every time, but I can't work out that the keyboard's open. I have to do a window resize, so I have to know if the window's been resized to then do it. It's awful. Some of the hacks I've had to do to work out these things,
and it feels so dirty writing hacks.
Oh man,
because you like sitting like
exactly. It works, but I feel so violated that I've had to do it this way. But the trouble is, in the real world, you do have to fix these bugs, and they annoy people so much. Like, I understand it. And the thing is, you could say just get a new get a new phone. They're not going to though, you have to kind of pick your battles of, where you kind of say, look, we're not going to support that, or all right, we'll support it, but we'll have to use a nasty hack. But I think it's one of those things where we all want to live in a perfect world, but there are some bits you have to kind of hide with horrible stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's been me really as well. Like this, the React stuff, looking through that. I'll move Jekyll. Jekyll's been a big thing now, actually. So I don't know if you saw, I moved the 3dev site to Jekyll.
Oh, I saw an email or a text about it.
Yeah, so what's
it's a static site generator.
It is, yeah. So it's actually all hosted on GitHub. So I did my own blog on it, and it's really nice because you can just push to master, and it does all the GitHub hosts it all for you.
Right.
So I've done the same thing with the 3dev site, and this will be the first episode that goes out using that.
Awesome.
So and I host all the assets, all the media files now on S3. Still need to work out how we want to do the stats again. We don't have our lovely stats.txt file anymore, which may hurt people. I know.
Ouch.
I know. We'll keep the stats. I need to have a think about that. Yeah. I know. Oh, Mickey's not liking this. So for the audience, essentially what we had was a stats.txt file, which was just a cron job that I did on my old box. And it was really quite... I liked it. It worked really well. Like it would essentially go through all the Apache log that I had.
Oh, really?
Literally. So it goes through the Apache log, does an awk on that, finds out all the unique IP address file lines, because I only wanted IPs there. Kind of get the file names and then just count them. Yeah. That's all it did, and it was so kind of... I may put it up online, but I was really kind of happy with it. It worked really well, and I'm going to try, because I know you can do the same thing with S3, that you can actually get their Apache logs, like their log files, so I'll be able to do it. But I'm interested to see what it's going to be like.
Well, like before, we had actually no way of knowing if anyone was actually listening to
the
show.
That's it. I mean, looking at it, like iTunes doesn't give you anything. You don't know anything. You really are kind of... You have to do everything yourself, and the only way I was able to kind of deduce it was I was thinking, all right, then I'll unique it by IP, assuming that everyone uses... I mean, we're not living on the AOL browser anymore. Everyone's using the shared proxy IP anymore. And then that kind of thing. But I also had it really quite cool that there was like I built up this script that simply, and it was just, again, it's just like a Unix command, like, again, beauty of Unix, kind of building up these commands scripts. and it would do geolocation, so it would locate, it would work out what the IP is, and then be able to just say, oh, by the way, these people downloaded it and stuff.
Interesting to see.
It would be. Actually, I've got all the stats, and we can work it out. But I thought that's bit. So Jekyll's been kind of a big thing, and I really enjoy Jekyll. It's kind of the first dip that I've dipped into real Ruby that I've done, and it's not really Ruby because the thing is, it's all very much, you can just look at someone else's Jekyll files and copy it.
How exactly does it work?
So essentially, it's like sculpting. So that's what the Bo Simonson did, and he was talking about it on one of our last year's podcast, I think it was. Yeah. And what it is, it's static file web generation. Yeah. And essentially, what it does is that it builds the actual website from your thing, and then you upload that, and that's it. So it's static, so no dynamic at all. So it's not fetching from a database any stuff. It's all generated already. And so for a blog, that's great, really, because actually you think about it, it's quick. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, it's easy to host. Yeah. And I mean, one of the funny things, like redirects. So one of the things is like, we have so when we first started 3 devs to the maybe, I used /post/ then a name. Then I moved just to not post, but iTunes and all these things need a GUID, a global unique identifier. So it was like, oh, I can't change them because everyone else's download, think, oh, we've got a new episode. It's not really a new episode. So I was like, I have to redirect. And again, GitHub supports this plugin that essentially is just, all it does is do a meta. So it just has it's a HTML file that has just redirected this page in it, and it generates that. And I mean, it's fine. I mean, it works really well, actually. So I would look into static file generation like that for blogs and stuff, because I love it. I think it's great. And they're all markdown files still, so you can just move them. I mean, I found moving from my bespoke kind of packed version I did in PHP to this really quite easy. Yeah. And that's having no DigitalOcean anymore.
You don't use it at all?
I haven't got any need for it at the moment. Yeah. I deleted my last droplet. It was really weird. So, I mean, I will move back. Obviously, if I'm using it, I'm going to use DigitalOcean again. Been using that for a year or two now, and I've really enjoyed it. But it's weird. But they're getting so many data centers now. I see them springing up. They've got one in London. They get one in it's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, I was looking at it yesterday. There was one of my clients, like a designer that I do the occasional bit of work for. He's setting up a new site, and he's got his own DigitalOcean account. So I look in there because he was like, "Oh, what should I set up?" And because you can set up a box now, like Ubuntu with.
That's it exactly. It has it all pre-built,
which is awesome because
you don't have to do it. Well, it's the stuff that you don't want to deal with. Yeah. And wouldn't it be nice just to have that be like, "Oh, I balked it. Oh well, start again. Yeah. Don't matter." I think that's great. I think it's amazing kind of thing, But I mean, it's been almost an hour. Yeah. Of us. Mickey's looking a little tired.
I'm flagging, actually.
He's flagging. He looks a little flagging. He looks
strangely since I had this coffee, so it's a bit mental. But
well, I did lace the coffee with something that it will make you sleepy.
Viagra.
With Viagra. So now obviously you're very tired.
I wonder why I'm so excited. Okay.
But you're starting uni again, aren't you? You've got your so what's this year then for uni?
Just my final year project, basically. So
that's so strange. So it's just the fact. So no lectures, nothing.
Obviously, because if you do it full time, you're doing this course in a year. So obviously, I'm doing part time 3 years. So the third year, there's no modules, just my project. So
and have you got your project laid out? I know you talked about it before, but
I've been really bad. But I did speak to my supervisor before the summer. I said, look, I just wanted the summer to rest. I needed it really. I was just burnt out, so I've done a few little bits of reading, and I can't remember the name of the book, but there's a really good book on basically about machine learning algorithms and that kind of stuff. So I've done a little bit of reading on that, but not as much as I should have done. But I'm really looking forward to getting into it, and also I've got the project to do. I have to keep a logbook of what I do.
And so what's that then? What's the logbook for?
So really, it's just really like your scrapbook. So you say, I just read this chapter. And then I did this.
Oh, so is it to see them? They know then you've been doing work and
and I'm just using some I think it's a Ruby program, and I just on the command line I just put log and then just type in whatever I want.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I find it really quite useful. So I'm using that, and then there's like a 12,000 words write up of the project.
That's the one. That's
the bit I'm not looking forward to. So that'll be boring.
Is it a presentation as well? Do you have to present it?
Not so much. I was you had like a project research module, and you had to present your idea to everyone, and that was that was not fun because there's senior lecturers, and then all the students were listening as well. But you know what, that bit's all done. So I actually think this year will be easier than the last 2.
And probably most interesting, maybe, because you get to go and do your own kind of projects and how you want to kind of direct it. And
absolutely, yeah. I've chosen my own projects and stuff, so that was really cool. And I was able to had to go and find a supervisor to do it, and I met him. He's really cool dude.
It'd be cool, like, to keep an update on how it's going, like, because it's essentially, so you're looking at reverse engineering, like a kind of a similar Google search algorithm kind of thing, like how they work. Yeah,
I want to basically be able to go and look at sites and find out why they rank high or why they rank low, and find out like the different variables.
So how are you going to do that? Like, have you got any idea? Because that just sounds really cool.
So I've had lots of different ideas, and I guess one of the ideas I really want to do is actually create my own spider to go and crawl.
Yeah,
and then use those results to then go and find. To be honest, I was looking at maybe using genetic algorithms to.
Because I know that because I suppose your real problem isn't the crawler. Is that something you're having to do? Like, it's not something you. Because I was thinking, like, there actually are open source crawlers. No, there's actually open source crawlers, like Java ones. And maybe I'll put, because I remember when we did that project for our old company. That was like a mobile. They actually.
Is that what they used?
They didn't use it, but we found it in the end, and I was like, "You probably want to use this instead." And it's a lot easier, and it will do. I think it will scale up for you and stuff. So
send me some links.
I'll send you some links on that. Yeah, I think that would be a good thing to look into, because if it's not your main problem to deal with a crawler, don't make a crawler.
True.
If you can find one online, then you can get the data.
You know me, I tend to try and make things a lot harder than what they should be. But I also thought the idea of making a spider was quite cool in itself, to be honest with you. But yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to it. I think the danger of it is, whereas when you do your modules, you tend to do stuff that you don't know a lot about, and you're forced to then learn. Whereas, because I've picked my own module, like, the danger is trying to do stuff that you're too comfortable with, and there's a danger that I won't learn too much from it. So I do want to push myself, and like I say, I think I'm going to do it in Java because it's my weaker language. So I'm going to push myself, and I'll probably be stressed out wreck by the end of it. But yeah, hopefully this time next year I'll be
exciting stuff.
I'll be a master of
You'll
science.
be a master of science.
Yeah.
Computer science master.
Yeah.
Update that, 3 devs and a maybe.
Yeah.
Tag, yeah.
Has anyone updated to El Capitan yet?
No, is it anything different?
It's a little bit different. The best thing is, like, if you move the mouse really quick, you get like a massive cursor, and then it shrinks back down so you can see where it is.
That is probably the one of the most useful / one of the most like kind of pointless added. Like, it's great though.
And the new beach ball, because they've had the old beach ball for God knows how long. So
they've updated it.
Yeah.
No.
It's like flat design now.
Oh
it
man.
Looks really cool and split screen. I don't really see the point. Like, do you know when you go full screen in an app, or in an app or whatever, you get a full screen window. They now give you the option to go like split screen on it, so you can have a full screen window, but with 2 apps taking up the thing. So you can have like your editor and your browser. And which is cool.
I use that for like Moon. Actually, I actually use that quite a bit. Like, the audience won't see it, but I use like this thing Moom, and then I'm able to like split it like this,
pretty much exactly the same
like that. They've just so again, like, this is one thing where like the big operating systems.
So can you go?
And then I can change, like, I've got like preset like how I would like things to look.
That's really cool. But that looks as though you've got way more options than you have in El Capitan, because you can half and half it, and that's it. Like, you can't go 2/3 and 1/3. You can't have 3.
Yeah, this is quite cool. You can like pick how you'd want apps to look and stuff. Cool. But again, this is one of those things where they're like taking the ideas that other people. Right? That is on Windows. Yeah, Windows has already had that.
Windows 7, I think.
Yeah, Windows 7. That was one of the beautiful things in Windows 7 was the fact you just drag, and you're done.
But it's not quite that user friendly. Like, you have to. How do you do it? Oh, you basically you hold and click on the maximize button, and then if you can either click it and it will just go full screen as it did, or you can hold and press it and then it will come up in like shade, and you can drag it across the side of the screen. And then I
actually preferred Windows. Actually had the better UI there.
Well, you better,
That's a much better way of just being able to drag, because that's kind of what you visually want to do. You want to chuck it to that side, and then it would do it.
Yeah. And Outlook 2011 doesn't work on
crap.
El Capitan as well, which is annoying because we all use Outlook 2011 in our office.
Because I know 2016's out now. I guess that's like a proof thing.
But apparently there's still bugs with that. But yeah, so we've got this issue with 2011. So you always, not always, but you have to force quit it. And then you start it up again, and then you get the beach ball after like a couple of minutes, or 5 minutes, or 10 seconds.
Solid.
So random.
And
then I was like doing a bit of research online to see if there was any workarounds or anything. And then I came across this thread and said, "Oh yeah, Microsoft's acknowledged that there's a bug for it." Like, they acknowledged this like 2 days ago when El Capitan comes out. Like, officially, haven't it already been out for a big?
I was thinking, like, surely they would have probably thought maybe we should be looking at this.
Like, they've got a bug page, and they're acknowledging it as a thing. So El Capitan's version is like 10.11. like OS X 10.11. So on the bug page for the Microsoft Office 2011, so on the official Microsoft page, it says details of workaround. Run Outlook 2011 in OS X 10.10. That's their official workaround. Don't
downgrade. Please downgrade or don't upgrade. Oh,
and understandably, people are giving them crap for it because how can they not pick this up? Because
that's ridiculous. Yeah,
it's been in beta for 4 months, 5 months. Well,
and that's 2011 isn't like a product that's out. You know, I mean, like kind of thing. And that's, I mean, but this is the thing. Like, I know that was the latest version. Like 2016 has only just come out. Yeah. That was the new the thing. That's ridiculous.
Yeah,
man. That's crazy.
I was interested about the beach ball though, because I didn't realise like the diehard sort of Windows fans like we take the mick out of Windows with the blue screen of death.
Yeah,
that's the thing with the beach.
The beach ball.
And like at their big like showcases, I'll start throwing around beach balls in the crowd and stuff.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh man, it's so mean, isn't it? People are so mean.
Bitterness there.
Yeah. Well, it's the fact that the icon on the network icon for a Windows machine is the blue screen of death. So it's probably not the nicest thing. So I think Mac both does it as well. There's that.
Yeah, they're both bad, aren't they? Yeah.
Oh, do you remember blue screens of death? That was amazing.
Well, apparently they're gone now. But
they are gone. I mean, they are gone. I mean, it was back in like 95 and stuff. I'd get like epic ones and you'd just be like, all this like gubbins coming across the screen. You're like,
Awesome. Yeah.
Oh man, I think it's definitely time to wrap up. But no, guys, it's been great you coming down, and awesome. It's been doing our first live podcast. I think we've hit a couple of good points here. I thought we haven't giggled, laughed as much as I thought we would.
We've smashed it.
Yeah, we completely smashed it. And so for some reason, it turns out Mickey, after having a coffee, is actually more tired than before having a coffee. Who'd have thought that? But anyway, who wants to wrap up? Fraser, do you want to say goodbye?
Goodbye.
Well, probably should have said. Do you want to wrap up the show? Do you want to end it?
Yeah, thank you very much for listening, everyone. We love you all.
Reviews.
Give
us iTunes reviews. No, not recently. Please, iTunes reviews.
On iTunes.
They help us. I've learned from other podcasts. Please give us iTunes reviews. They help us in the rankings. And talk to us on Twitter.
And if anyone knows Uncle Bob, we want to get him on the show.
Yes. Please.
Yes.
Awesome. All right then.
Goodbye.
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 Bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to 3 Devs and a Maybe. You can contact us at contact@3devsandamaybe.com or follow us on Twitter at 3 Devs and a Maybe.